AM 1460, the new WXBR. You are listening to the Metro South Morning Show. Peter Zimborn and Mike Pava here with you on this Monday morning. This Thursday night at the Verizon Wireless Arena in Manchester, New Hampshire, it's the annual Fight to Educate charity boxing show. There will be several professional and amateur boxing matches and celebrity guests in attendance. And amongst those celebrity guests is our next guest. From 1982 to 1984, he was the WBA lightweight champion of the world from Youngstown, Ohio. Joining us right now on AM 1460, the new WXBR, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Ray, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Ray, you were a staple of network television during a time when boxing was broadcast regularly on network television. About a quarter century later, from your heyday, or even more than a quarter of a century later, you're still making regular appearances at places well outside your home region of Youngstown, Ohio. It must be still a kick for you to see that there's people all over the country that are fans of yours after all these years.
Well, it's very flattering. It's very flattering, and I got to tell you, I not expected because it's a whole new generation of fight fans, and it's funny because I like to think of myself as one of the young guys. And then when my kids' friends go, "Hey, I saw your fights on YouTube," and you realize, "Oh man, I'm a YouTube guy now, so I'm not so young anymore." And it's funny, and that's the great thing about modern technology that people can go on places like YouTube and see your fights, and it's a wonderful thing. So it gives you recognition, it gives you a notoriety and visibility amongst the new demographic.
A few years ago, you'd have to wait every few weeks to see which one of your fights might end up on ESPN Classic to keep visibility within the public eye. However, now, like you mentioned, folks can go check out YouTube, and folks who never were alive during your heyday can re-experience it or experience it for the first time.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful thing. Once in a while, I'll go on YouTube myself, and I'll say, "Hey, there's a fight I'm interested in seeing again," and I'll click on, and sure enough, it comes up, and it's a wonderful thing because, like you just said, years ago, you would have to hope for even the ESPN Classic, but there was a group called Big Fights. Big Fights Inc. was a company, and they used to have the fights on 8 millimeter, and then it went to the VHS, of course, and now disc. But the thing is, you have to send away for it, and the specific, hopefully, if they had it in stock, and it's a whole thing. But now, it's a click of a button. It's that we're in an age of immediate gratification.
Once again, we're chatting with Ray Boom Boom Mancini here on AM 1460, the new WXBR, former lightweight champion of the world, who will be appearing at the Fight to Educate charity boxing show this Thursday night in Manchester, New Hampshire. Ray, you've been the subject of quite a few documentaries in recent years. Outside of the fact that, as you mentioned, you still have a high visibility among social media and modern technology, a la YouTube and whatnot. Tell us about this documentary, which is currently playing in select theaters, of The Good Son, The Life of Ray Mancini.
Yeah, I'm first of all, it's based on the book written by Mark Kriegel that came out last September. So it's a year since the book came out, which September 18th would be the 1-year anniversary. And it's a wonderful book. I'm very honored and flattered that a writer such as Mark Kriegel would consider me as a subject matter. But the fact, and then after the book was written, they talked about it, or actually during the time it was written, they talked to us about possibly making it into a feature documentary, and if I'd be interested. And I'm very interested if it could, be done right. And the company, the gentleman who executive produced it, Chris Tavlerides, wonderful guy. It's his first foray into the entertainment business, and he took a shot on me. So I'm so honored by that. And the director they hired, Jesse James Miller, when I spoke to him, he told me his vision. He wanted to stick as close to the book as possible. And that sold me on it because I just thought he was a very earnest guy, and he wanted to stick to the story because, when you're doing a feature documentary, it's just like in a book. There's many chapters of your life, and you want to touch upon all of them. You got at that time, I'm 52 now, but at that time at 49 years old, you have almost 50 years of living. You have to put into 300 pages. So now you got to take the 300 pages and put into 90 minutes. So but I'm very honored, and I think it's as good as it can get. Jesse James Miller is a wonderful artist, and so I was very fortunate to work with two wonderful people, Mark Kriegel and Jesse James Miller, and the film is as good as it's going to get. That's all I can say. It's as good as it's going to get. I couldn't be happier with it, and it's been very well received, very well regarded, and I'm very proud of it.
We mentioned ESPN Classic a few minutes ago during the course of this interview. A few years back, there was a documentary about you that was airing regularly on ESPN Classic,
right.
The Triumph and Tragedy of Ray
right.
Mancini. What separates this new documentary, The Good Son, from that one?
Well, the Triumph and Tragedy was about one subject matter. It was about that particular fight with Korean Dooku Kim. This, on the other hand, it touches upon, it's 90 minutes long, and we don't get to touch into the Korean thing until 60 minutes into it. So there's other parts of my life, like I said. It touches upon growing up in Youngstown and wanting to be a fighter for my father, and my relationship with my city of Youngstown, and the fights along the way, and that's the difference. It's the full scope of everything. And like I said, it's as good as it can get. And of course, you touch upon that fight, and of course, we give it the proper time, but it's not particularly just about that fight. It's about my life in general.
The fight with Dooku Kim was a fight where you took on a fighter from Korea named Dooku Kim, who ultimately died as a result of injuries sustained in the fight with you. How long did it take you to be able to be at peace with the fact that this was going to be a part of your history that was going to be mentioned each and every time you were spoken to for the rest of your life in interviews and things like this, and be the subject matter in significant portions in documentaries?
Well, for me, the way my life is, I have to make peace with things relatively quick. I mean, that's not a time frame, so to speak. But I mean, my life, I've had to do that. I have a strong faith, and I rely on my faith in God, and I say my prayers, and I ask for, and I ask for that peace of body, mind, and spirit. And for me, it's just I have to move on quickly with things, or else, some people that never move on. They let the whole cloud of the doom and gloom hang over them, and next thing you know, they're months, days, months, sometimes years pass them by, and they just dig a hole and crawl up and wither away. So for me, things have to move on for me, and the best way for that is to make peace with things relatively quickly, and I do, and that's again because of my faith, my strong faith, and so I did that, and I was able to move on, and the fight was November, and I got back in the ring in February after a long, tumultuous time of and a lot of prayer and thought. But then I said, hey, I got to move on or give it up, one or the other. So once I decided to move on, then I got back in the ring, and I had to be honest with myself. Could I still fight with the same intensity, the same desire that if I had a guy hurt again, that I would go in and take him out again? And once I was assured, confident I could do that, I went in and fought. But you have to understand, when I turned pro, I fought for righteous reasons. I fought for the honor of my father, to win the world title for my father, and for the love of the sport. And once I won the world title, I wanted to be a good champion and a respectable champion and a proud champion. And I fought for the honor of my city of Youngstown, Ohio. And so there's a lot of things I carried with me into the ring. But after that fight, it took all love, took all the passion, took all the so-called righteousness out of it for me. Then it just became a sport or job, so to speak. And then once I had the knowledge of I had my financial security, then I was looking for the door to get out.
We're chatting with Ray Boom Boom Mancini here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. Ray, you mentioned that you fought for the honor of your hometown of Youngstown, Ohio. In recent years, Youngstown, Ohio has been put back on the map in regards to boxing due to now former middleweight champion from Youngstown, Ohio, Kelly Pavlik, who has since retired from the sport following sort of some ups and downs following his title reign. What advice have you or would you give to Kelly Pavlik in relation to his career, which has come to a conclusion in recent years as he's opted to retire?
Well, I know Kelly since he was a young kid. I know Kelly since he was 10 years old. As trainer Jack Lowe, I grew up with Jack. And he used to tell me about this kid. You got to come and see this kid. And, when I was 10 years old, I used to go in the gym and see him. And you could see that he had something special. But, and as he was climbing, I was one of his biggest fans. And But there's certain people. It's something you're born with. Again, it's like like fighters. You're born with the fighting spirit. Fighters are born; they're not made. And you're born with a good chin. You're born with punching power. You're born with a lot of things. The same thing with being able to handle success. See, most of us are able to handle failure much more easier than we handle success because we fail much more than we succeed. So the human condition is able to handle failure much easier. So I think Kelly, when he won the title, I think he got overwhelmed by the success and everything that came along with it. See, people don't understand. When you become world champion, I mean, the expectations and the expectations and called upon you for not just personal appearances and the way you have to carry yourself as a person and live your life. It's a lot. It's very daunting on someone if you're not prepared for that. And I don't think Kelly was prepared for that. I think he got overwhelmed by it, and the way he dealt with it was by drinking, and eventually it became the biggest part of his life and overshadowed his career. So they used to say to me, "Do you have any words of advice?" I talked to Kelly, and I gave him, I used to say, "I'm here. Anytime he wants to talk to me, I'm here." And a few times we talked, and I told him, don't let this overwhelm you. Don't become a prisoner of your fame. Enjoy it. Have fun with it because it's borrowed time. But you could see he was never comfortable with it. And I just, it's unfortunate that it got the best of him because he had a hell of a career. He was positioned to be not only the face of American boxing, but the face of boxing worldwide. I mean, kid from Middle America, middleweight champ, punch like the way he can punch. I mean, it was look, the table was set, but he just couldn't handle success.
Kelly Pavlik, still a relatively young man in his 30s, yet he's retired from boxing. Do you think that he'll go back into the ring and try boxing again, or do you think he's retired for good?
No, he's gone. He's done for good. But here's what people, you just said relatively young. Yes, he's a young man, but he's an old fighter. See, that's what people kill me. My father taught me a long time ago, at 28, if you've been fighting regularly, from amateur, you're a young man but an old fighter. And, Napoleon once said, now I bet you know I could quote Napoleon. Napoleon once said, after 30, a man's spirit is not made for war. I'm at 28. I believe at 28, you're done. I retired at 24 because the main reason, not because I couldn't fight. I lost the love for the fight game. But look, the one thing I'm most proud of is I can still spell fight. I can still spell it. And I say that half jokingly because so many guys can't. So believe me, when I heard about these guys in their 30s still fighting, for what? What's the purpose? That makes no reason. There's no reason to be fighting in your 30s. What you accomplish in your 20s should set up your 30s and your 40s and so on. Whatever you accomplish in your 20s, you should try to parlay that into other things. To be fighting in your 30s absolutely is maddening to me that people would still be doing this.
What do you say to guys like Evander, Holyfield, Roy Jones, James Toney, guys who at an advanced age are still competing in the sport of boxing, but at a significantly diminished level from where they were at their peak?
Exactly. And that's the point. Who wants to say that? When I go to see my fighting heroes or my boxing heroes, I want to see them at their best. And then when they start to slip, then you say, "Hey, God bless them, man. Move on, get out, move on." But when I see these fighters continue to come back, it's like a bad TV sitcom. Old reruns. Who wants to see it? Nobody's paying to see it. I don't want to see it. And all you take away is the memory of who you were. Now, what you accomplish, you can't take away of, but you take away from who you were. And here's what people fail to realize. How much money, it doesn't matter how much money you make if you can't count it afterwards. What difference does it make? Because those are the same people who look at me and go, "Oh, poor guy. Look at the poor guy." Well, hey, you were paying to see him a month ago. You were paying to see him a year ago. If you people who stop going, quit buying the fights to these guys, they'd quit because nobody cares.
Once again, we're chatting with Ray Mancini here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. A lot of those guys seemingly have had a tough time transitioning from their boxing career to a post-boxing career life. Never really been an issue in your life, at least from the public's perspective. You're a guy that remains active in your post-boxing career. Actually have your own wine company nowadays. Tell us about that.
Right, that's one of my newest venture. Over the last 4 years, I have a wine company, and it's wonderful to be able to take whatever you accomplish and parlay it into something else. And I've been able to do that, and I've been drinking wine 30 years, and and I'm fairly knowledgeable about wine. So, I've been in California going on 28 years, going on almost 30 years. So I go to a lot of wineries. I go to different wine, wine openings and things like that. And I've learned talking to some of the best sommeliers around the country and learning about grapes and all that stuff. You've got to have an interest in if you're passionate. I have a passion for it, so you got to take an interest in it. But so now we're out on the market, and we've got 3 new wines coming out this coming week. And unfortunately, we wouldn't have had it ready in time for this event, but I wish we would have. And it's called Southpaw wine, Southpaw by Ray Bumbo Mancini. And the reason for the name is my last name, Mancino, in Italian means left-handed or southpaw.
Now, were you a southpaw fighter, or did you just stand orthodox?
No, but I am a southpaw.
Okay.
I fought my first 6 amateur fights as a southpaw, but they converted me after my 6th amateur fight because my amateur trainer said, I'm never going to be able to get you no fights because you're strong, you punch hard, you're aggressive. Nobody wants to fight a southpaw. So, and plus he says, we convert you, we'll get more use out of your left hand. We'll get that, we'll have that left hook. So it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And but I am a southpaw. Yes, I am a southpaw. I'm a Mancini. I'm a southpaw. It all goes together.
Once again, we're chatting with Ray Mancini here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. So this is not just a wine that brands your name. You're actually very hands-on in the process of making and distributing this wine.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That was the thing. When the company first approached me about doing it, they approached me about doing a signature line of wine, but I think they had in mind what you just said, that put my name to it, and thank you. No, and I said no. I said only if I have input. And they said, what do you mean? I said, look, I'm fairly knowledgeable, as I just said, and I know wines and I know grapes, and I got to have input. So it was a year process of my style. It's my style of drinking wine. I like a medium body wine, not a full body wine. I mean, look, if I drink full body wine in the afternoon, I'm ready for a nap. So it's a medium body wine, very high in the tannins, very fruity. Not sweet so much, very fruity. You taste the tannins, and that's the type of wine I like. It's very fruit forward, I say. And so we did that, and the wine was very good. It got well received. We were all throughout Ohio, and finally I wanted to expand, but this company wasn't able to handle that type of to expand it like I wanted to. So we dissolved our relationship, and I made a relationship with another company, and our wine comes strictly right from Napa. So it's Napa, which gives you that cachet of having Napa on the back of your bottle. And it's right. We distribute, direct response. We have a website. The website will be up in about a week. Get it from my website, my own home website, RayBoomboMancini.com. You can order from. And it'll be in the stores and restaurants around the country. So I'm very excited about it. This is a whole new venture, and it's really taken off.
Outside of your entrepreneurial experiences, a la this wine company and whatnot, didn't you get involved in some television production and acting at one point?
I'm still doing it. I have my film production company. Absolutely, I'm in pre-production on a film that we're shooting in this October back east, and I've done. We have 2 divisions. We have the film division and the documentary film division also, where there's a couple of subject matters that I am really attracted to. And like I said, because the documentary is such a big part of the business now, it's more attractive to me. There's actually, they have there's several movie stations now, television stations, the documentary channel where they do. And not only HBO accepts documentaries, but there's a lot of channels now that are strictly that are sticking strictly with the documentary type films. So it's becoming a big part of the business, and there's so many good subject matters. And the reason why documentaries are so exciting and so interesting are because I'm a firm believer, as the old saying is, that fact is always stranger than fiction. And that's the thing about documentaries. You're getting the real story. And so we have several subject matters in the documentary division as well as my feature film company. So I'm excited about this year. I'm excited about all the things coming up. It's just, this past year has been a great year with the book, and the movie, and now the potential for this coming year is even better.
You mentioned that when you were champion, you wanted to represent the sport of boxing with honor. What champions in the sport of boxing right now do you think are representing that sport well?
Well, I think Manny Pacquiao is a great representative for it. I think Canelo Alvarez is a great representative. But I'm a fan of the younger fighters. Abner Mares, who, even though he just got beat, I think he's been a very good representative. Nonito Donaire, another one. A lot of good young up-and-coming fighters that are action-packed, fan-friendly, and have respect for their game. And that's the type of guys I'm excited for. So, Nonito Donaire, Abner Mares, Leo Santa Cruz, Matisse. These are wonderful young fighters, and I'm a big fan of all of them. So, boxing is in good hands. I'm excited about what the potential of this coming year.
You mentioned Canelo Alvarez. He takes on Floyd Mayweather this Saturday in Las Vegas in attempt to dethrone boxing's longtime pound-for-pound king. Any prediction on your part in this Floyd Mayweather-Canelo Alvarez fight?
Because, people ask me often, and I said, look, Canelo should win. Canelo should win. And people say, what? I said, you have to understand something. Canelo, I've met Canelo. He's built like a linebacker. You see how strong this kid is. And I've seen him work out and how strong he is and how he punches. It all depends on what Canelo does. We all know that Floyd, what he's going to do. Floyd doesn't want to engage in this type of fight. He doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with a guy like this, so he's going to be trying to use his smarts and use his effective, his ring smarts and his experience and all that stuff. But the bottom line is this, you still got to fight. If you got a guy who's on top of you, if Canelo comes out and jumps on Floyd Mayweather right from the get, and makes it a dogfight, he'll beat him. Because, first of all, he's younger, he's stronger, and Floyd doesn't want to engage in that type of fight. Hasn't wanted to. Floyd will stay on the outside and slap you all night long if he can beat you that way. He will not go out there and try to close the show. A guy like Canelo, who can punch the way he can, he has to go out there and jump on Floyd, and even if he eats some punches early on, wear Floyd down with them body shots. In the end, he'll beat Floyd. But again, if he goes out there like he's showed in the last couple fights and take his time the first 2 rounds, if he gets the first 2 rounds away to Floyd, then he got to win 7 of the next 10 to win a decision, and that ain't going to happen. So it all depends on Canelo Alvarez. If he goes out there and makes it a dogfight right from the get, he'll beat him. And because, again, Floyd doesn't want to engage in that type of fight. And plus, here's the other thing. Canelo's 22. Floyd's 36. You got to make Floyd fight at a 22-year-old pace. You don't allow him to fight at a 36-year-old pace.
That's Ray Boom Boom Mancini picking the upset special this Saturday in Las Vegas. Canelo Alvarez over Floyd Mayweather. Ray Boom Boom Mancini will be appearing this Thursday night at the Fight to Educate charity boxing show at the Verizon Wireless Arena in Manchester, New Hampshire. Ray, before I let you go, any final words for our listeners here on this Monday morning?
Well, I just hope they come out for the event, because more than anything, for the event itself, Fight to Educate is such an important education and everything. You know what they say, educate to elevate. The only way we get ahead in this world is through education. And I teach my children, I teach others, I speak, that you got education is the one thing that's the food for life. And you can't get enough of it.
That is former lightweight world champion Ray Boom Boom Mancini joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. Ray, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're listening to the Metro South Morning Show here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. We're slightly overdue for a look at local news. Stick with us here on AM 1460.